Hey YouTube! So today we're going to chat about air drying, and I think it's really important that we talk about air drying because it's something that I find a lot of us love doing, but it's not so good for your locks. So we're going to chat about why. When you air dry your locks or choose not to sit under a concentrated heat source for drying your hair, I should say, this can lead to lots of problems. And I don't want to say lots of problems, but there are things that you should be mindful of. And I want to make sure that you're making an informed decision about air drying your locks and not just thinking it's the norm and then having issues later. So, the number one risk to air drying your locks is the potential for mold and mildew development. You know that mold loves growing in dark, damp places, right? And what's darker, especially if you have dark hair, and damper than inside of a nice melanated lock, right? And especially if your locks are mature, meaning they're more condensed and compact, and it's harder for that water to get out of your lock. So be mindful, because your hair or your locks are an ideal environment for mold and mildew growth. And it can start with just an odor, or it can develop into the actual fungus in your hair, because our scalps already have fungus on it. Just naturally you have fungus on your scalp. But mold mildew is definitely number one risk factor with air drying. Also, when you air dry your locks, especially if you shampoo your hair and then it's like nighttime and you're like, oh, I'm about to go to sleep, I don't want to sit on dryer. I'm totally guilty of doing that a time or two or more. But what can happen is that you can make your locks flat, because our hair takes on the shape that it's dried in. Once it's wet, whatever shape you put it into, dry it that way, that's how it's going to be. So if you wet your hair or it's still damp and you lay down, go to sleep, put a hat on or a bonnet or scarf, and it's flattening the hair, flattening the lock, and it dries overnight, dries flat, you'll eventually just have flat locks. And depending on what stage you are in the locking process, that may or may not be able to be corrected. So just be mindful. And the third risk to, I don't even think it's a risk, but the third thing that I want you to be aware of when you air dry your locks is that your maintenance or styles that you may put in your hair will not last as long. And that's because oftentimes inside of the lock, not the outside, not what you feel when you just squeeze it, but deep inside. You've seen videos where I actually go in the microscope and looking at locks inside there, in that matrix of hair that's all intertwined. It's still wet. And so just a little bit of dampness on, say, a perm rod set. Curl your hair on perm rods. Oh, I'm just going to sleep on it overnight. It'll dry in the morning. You take them out. You have beautiful curls. By the end of the day or the next day, they're gone. Your hair was still wet. Just a little bit of moisture will leave your curls they won't hold. They won't last. So, for longevity of styling and also for your maintenance, you have to make sure your hair is dry. So I'm going to give you a few solutions or a few tips if you are like an air dryer, you're just like, I'm not sitting on a dryer, I can't deal with it. Or you're not sitting under a hooded dryer. One, you want to make sure that you're using a lint-free towel. These towels are designed to absorb more moisture than cotton towels or a t-shirt or anything like that. So that way you get the bulk of the water out of your locks just by using that lint-free towel. And then if you're just like, I can't bear to sit under the dryer for an hour or just don't have the time, take 15 minutes at least. I would highly recommend investing in the Bonnet dryers where you can put them over your head like a scarf, and then it's like the motor is like attached to the back, so that way you can still hear, you still have mobility, you're not under this like hard thing, just invest in that. Sit under there for 15 to 20 minutes just to knock like the excess out, right? And so that way it makes it so that the sun or the air doesn't have to work super hard to make sure your locks are fully dry. So just by knocking out that 15 minutes on the dryer will make a ton of difference. But if you have like a lot of locks or they're really long, you might gotta sit under there a little longer. And I would highly recommend, if you have a lot of locks or if they're really long, that you just sit on the dryer just to cut out or eliminate any of the issues that you could potentially cause. And I would also go on to say that the bonnet dryer is one of the better types of dryers for locks because it puts the ends inside of it. Of course you want your roots to be dry because you know that's where they look crispy and your style lasts and all that good stuff, but your ends are important too. So having your locks, the ends of your locks inside of the bonnet is really great. The hooded dryer, it's not my favorite. Not a huge fan of that, especially for like at home use. So bonnet dryers are really great. And as it relates to just using a blow dryer to dry your locks, you're not concentrating heat enough that your hair is going to get dry. Like you're just kind of like just giving it like almost like a rinse, but like a heat rinse. I made that up, but you get what I'm trying to say. Like it's just touching the surface. That's what I want to say. It's just touching the surface. So in order to like, again, get deep inside the locks, you need concentrated heat source. I don't know who's going to hold a blow dryer to their head to get inside of the lock because that'll probably burn your scalp. But I would just say get a hooded dryer. It's an investment into your hair care, right? And it packs up really nice. So I'm not saying you have to get the one that like stands up on the table or whatever. It packs up really nice into a nice little box. Tuck it away in the closet. Pull it out 15-20 minutes to an hour. I recommend the hour. But I understand it's not the best thing that you can do. But in the long run, it will help your locks and your journey. You'll avoid any of aforementioned problems and, you know, cultivate healthier locks. So I hope this video was helpful. Definitely check the description box for links to products and articles that will help you understand more about how to care for your locks. And again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.